Welcome to the Leafy podcast, helping real estate investors and entrepreneurs grow. Say hello to your hosts, Jennifer Glagoric and Brian Price, founders of Leafy Legal Services, teaching you how to protect your assets, grow your business, and manage your wealth. Let's start the show.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Leafy Podcast. Thank you so much for joining us today. We have an incredible show ready for you. I am Tammy, the podcast manager, and on with me today are the hosts and the CEO, CFO of Leafy Legal Services, Brian and Jennifer, and they have some amazing guests today, so I will go ahead and pass this off to them right now.
Hey guys, actually I'm the COO, Brian is the CEO, but today we have CFOs. We have the simple CFO solution. So we have the founder and we have the COO on, and they help stress entrepreneurs be less stressed, confident in their numbers, and make a profit. And specifically, they've been in real estate for the last 6 years. The COO has actually been in there for a little longer. They do over about 300 deals a year, wholesaling, fix and flipping, lease optioning, turnkey, you name it. So let us turn it over, because we've got a lot to talk about today, to David Richter, founder of Simple CFO Solutions, and then John Cruz, who's the COO. Welcome, John and David.
Welcome, guys. It's great to have you on. And it's great to have both of you on, because I know we do everything together, Jennifer and I. And so it's always great to have kind of the person that's the visionary and then the person that's doing all the operations. So it's very cool. And so you guys do quite a bit of stuff, and maybe let's start with, the Simple CFO Solutions and why you guys created CFO Solutions and what you guys do and how that can really help people.
Sure. So just to clarify, I was working with a company that was doing 300 deals. So that was years ago.
Okay.
And they were running about 180, then 250, then 300 deals. And that was when I was actually in the real estate world. And I got to see basically a company go from a pretty small company with only like 5 employees to about 30 people, doing the 300 deals a year. So that was really neat. Mm-hmm. And then I actually moved from that area about a year ago and worked with another smaller company, and definitely not doing 30 deals a month, but it was a lot more profitable. And I'm like, wait a second. Come on, what's going on here? So we were actually able to, in both companies and the both scenarios, take their books and basically transform them and input the numbers how they needed to be shown on the actual bookkeeping side. But then also we would have meetings and actually go over those numbers to make the decisions that we needed to make. So we were actually able to do that. And so the guy that I'm working with now said, this is something that you really helped me with. And that got me thinking that, okay, this is something that I could probably help a lot of other investors, because I know a lot of investors from masterminds and groups that I'm a part of. And a lot of the people out there right now especially are saying, hey, we need to be focused on net profit. Recession's coming again. So I basically stepped into that role with Simple CFO Solutions and founded the company to help entrepreneurs make and keep more profit, especially the real estate investing world, because I just saw it's a huge need out there that, number one, people don't know their numbers. Number two, they don't have an actual plan once a dollar comes into their business, like what to do with that dollar. So I like the profit first system and things like that make sure that it funnels that money for their current finances. And then we also help them with their future finances. So like the strategy on their actual systems for outside of their finances, but we make sure that financial portion is shored up first. And that's really, I got that heart for it and for those entrepreneurs, because I saw a lot of people just out there. They're out there every day trying to do the deals, and they get those deals, and then they're just basically filling a bucket with a hole in the bottom without having that financial portion actually built out. So that was disheartening to see. So I was like, I know I could help other people than the ones that I have, and that's where this came from, and have been helping people since.
And you practice what you preach, because you're debt-free in your personal and your private life, correct?
Both the business and the personal life, yes, completely debt-free. Nice. And so like I went from the place where I did own rentals, and I had my own rentals, but I eventually sold those. So now I just do more like on the lending side, because that way I'm not actually creating the debt for myself. And So that's where I've done it personally. And then I've also, in my business, I have those 3 components too in my own business. I know my numbers so I can make the decisions. I have the profit system so that way any dollar that comes in is portioned to the different accounts on a percentage basis. And that's basically the whole profit first system is set up like that. And then from there, it's just making sure we streamline everything from there. So that's correct. I try and practice what I preach for sure, because I know that it's such a powerful system that I need it in my own business, especially so that way I can help others achieve it.
That's great. I know a lot of times we preach, but we don't practice what we preach. So it's a lot of times it's great to see you're doing both. So, but what they also say is the tongue in your mouth matches the tongue in your shoe.
It's a good thing.
So when it comes to real estate investors, and a lot of our listeners are real estate investors, so what are kind of the big pitfalls you've seen when going through real estate investors' books, and what should they be looking for?
Great question. That's one of the top questions I get for sure, because number one, if they're not actually have a set of books, that's probably the biggest error I see. You need to be actually tracking the finances, because I've seen a lot of people, and there's people out there doing 40, 50, 100 wholesale deals a year that aren't tracking stuff, that we've come in there and said, okay, how far back do we need to go and help you get that up to date? So that would be the number one thing. And then number two, they're working with a bookkeeper or someone that doesn't know how to actually enter real estate. Because if you're a service-based business, a lot of things are on the P&L. They're right there. It's income and expenses. But with real estate, you're holding assets. So you have to know how to use the balance sheet. And that's because that's where the assets are supposed to be. So that would be another thing that I see as a pretty common error, is they just don't know how to enter when they buy a real estate transaction, especially if they're a fix and flipper. So
do you think that your background in Kung Fu helps you too, to be like Zen about this?
That I actually started that a little over a year ago. That was just something that I've always wanted to do, is take a martial art. But Kung Fu specifically, it doesn't have belts. It's a lifelong learning process, and that's what I love learning. I'm on my 121st book of the year. So it's like I try and read constantly, either by audiobook or, I have books that I'm going through right now. So I'm always trying to learn and grow. And I would say Kung Fu, just the whole mindset and the mentality, having the proper foundation, making sure you build from there, and just practice over and over again, the right types of things and the right moves and techniques. That's what makes you a success, because a success is defined a lot differently from a lot of people, but it's doing the right things at the right time with the right people for the right amount of time. So that's how I define success, and I want to make sure that my whole life is like that. So in my personal life, I take the Kung Fu, I read a lot, but then in the business life too, how can I transfer this knowledge to other people?
That's weird that you said that. Have you ever followed the Barefoot Doctor? He is like a Zen expert. He does this chant, this mantra chant that I actually have written in chalk on my refrigerator, and it says, I'm always in the right place at the right time with the right people doing the right things, getting the right result. And you're supposed to say that throughout the day. So when you said that, I was like, oh, hey. Brian, he is in the martial arts, but he has he just got his second black belt. So I was very impressed by that. I was like,
my system has belts.
Not the systems that have belts, that's for sure. But what attracted me to Kung Fu is more the life learning.
Oh, absolutely. I agree with you. I've been doing martial arts for about 10 years now. And I have to say it keeps you present, is what is my always thing, is you're present in the moment of whatever is going on. And I find that really helps to, keep the stress down and things like that, especially whatever happened through the day. Is when I'm in the studio, the world goes away and you focus in whatever time you're in there. And so that's great. So I always think any kind of sport or something like that is always good for people. I think for a health perspective is always good to have something that gets you out of your stress levels and things like that, because I think that helps you be a better entrepreneur overall anyway.
I totally agree. It gets you in that right frame of mind. And like the book's Deep Work, if you've ever read that, that's such a great book, just making sure that you're doing the things that actually matter. And that's why doing something like that, it forces you to stop, and not you have to be focused there. You can't be on your phone, or, it's like something where you have to be disconnected. And that's why I do that several times a week. And I really enjoy that time because it is another way to say, okay, this is where disconnect, make sure I'm focused on that task. So I totally agree with that.
Yeah. Very cool. So you talk a lot about, knowing your numbers and then also profit first as well. And I'm a big fan of Michael Michalowicz, and so maybe just kind of give a brief overview of what profit first is, and kind of how you utilize that within the what you do at Simple CFO Solutions.
Sure. So a lot of people have probably read that are listening to this podcast, The Richest Man in Babylon, probably George Clayson's book from the early 1900s. And in that book, he says, pay yourself first. And a lot of people doubt that. And if you are a W-2 wage earner, so let's get that right. So if you do that, or if you're in that type of environment, it's really hard to pay yourself first because you've got, the government that takes out your taxes right away. You've got that type of structure. So even if you were to pay yourself first off of your paycheck, it's still after tax and after that. As a business entrepreneur, depending on your tax classification or whatnot, you really can pay yourself first. And that's what the profit first system is really all about. For businesses, it is paying yourself first. So the author, Mike Michalowicz, created this system, or at least discovered it, and through his book Profit First explains it as different percentages for different accounts that you should have open, like at your bank. So you should have like a profit account, a tax account, an owner operator account, and then the operational expense account. So the owner's comp and the operational expenses. So you have all your income come in, and then you funnel the money through percentages to those other accounts. So that way right away, hey, every single dollar that I make is going to go, at least a percentage that is going to go towards profit. And if you're out there right now, because a lot of people are like, well, I can't be profitable right away. I'm reinvesting, I'm doing all this stuff. I'm plowing it back into my business to grow it. Well, you need to have the foundational core, the functionalities there to be able to say, hey, I'm going to be a profitable business, even if it's 0.5% that I'm putting away right now, just to get in that mindset. So it's really about the mindset of, I don't have to be a struggling entrepreneur all the time. I need to get a system now for every single dollar that comes into my company. That's really at the foundational, the core is making sure your business is a healthy business and a recession-proof business, because at the end of the day, it's the people who know their numbers and who have a system like that are going to weather a lot of the storms, because that way in Profit First, the different percentages that you're allocating to those accounts can save you in the future in your business, because you have an actual system for capturing, the income that comes in. It's not just all going out the door. You give the great illustration in the book of the small plates or the tube of toothpaste, where with the small plates, the smaller the plates, the smaller portion you're going to eat, but the bigger the plate you're going to have, the bigger you're going to eat too, or the more you're going to eat. It's the same thing with money. The more you have, a lot of entrepreneurs just spend all of that as it comes in. But if you have discipline and can actually put that in separate accounts where you don't touch it and it just is saved there for, and he goes through a lot more in depth of what you can do after that. But if you just have those foundational accounts and assign a percentage to them that you can realistically do, it's a great way to start off. Just, hey, I'm going to actually be a profitable business from wherever I am now, even if it's a super tiny percentage that I know that I can do that. It's getting in that mindset, that consistency, and that discipline of paying yourself first.
Hey, and speaking of a recession-proof business, you wrote a book about it, correct?
Yes, yeah. I have it right here. Less stress for profit for the serious real estate investor, building a recession-proof business. So in there, I go into more depth of just how to know your numbers, how to actually implement like a profit system and the different strategies and whatnot. So it gives a lot more of those types of that content inside of there. And it's really what I'm really trying to get out there is you don't have to be a business that has to worry, about the next downturn or whatnot. If you have the right pieces in place for your business, especially when it comes, if you're working so hard to get that marketing and sales funnel up, then if you have that, just don't have that bucket where it's just all going in and going right back out, because you don't have a way to catch that and say, here's what I need for a rainy day. So that's what that book's all about, the Less Stress, More Profit. I wanted to help people know, like, hey, you can build a recession-proof business by putting just a couple easy, small, simple tweaks in place to say, hey, we can actually, even if another recession were to come, we would be okay.
Yeah, that cannot be understated. We talk, I think Brian and I have harped many, many different times in our careers, and we've worked together with other entrepreneurs on you need a foundation, you need a structure. And of course, that's not as sexy or as fun as marketing and sales. So you have to tell them, okay, so what if you did have a funnel? You have the most incredible click funnels you could ever have, and you're capturing all these leads, right? And then they all go somewhere, and then what happens? Right. So something has to happen to those leads. So then you need to quantify those leads. You have your A leads. The people are like, oh, yeah, I was talking to my spouse about this. We know we need it. We're trying to budget for it. That's an A lead. Then you have a B lead. Yeah, I've thought about it. I don't know if I'm really out there right yet. Just haven't really talked about it. Maybe later, but it's on their plate. Then you have a C leads. Then you have the D lead, right? The people that are not interested, whatever. And you don't even think about those. You kick those out. You don't want to spend one iota of time on people like that because they're more of a waste. You have the tire kickers that go in there, the people that ask you all these questions, but they won't set up even a call with you, those people. And so we do this with sales. When you talk to sales managers and sales management and marketing people who coincidentally happen to be real estate people happen to be, have the strong entrepreneurial drive. And then other types of entrepreneurs either come from sales or marketing. You get, this huge amount of them that do that. And when you put it into those terms, they're like, yeah, we want to capture everything because that lead may not be a customer, but they may have value on another way. Maybe they can be a knowledge expert. Maybe you could do an affiliate program with them. Maybe you could do cross references or another business. When you really think about capturing things, you have to expand that. So that's like next level sales, and they get that. So this is next level accounting. And when you have this sort of system set up, it's the same structure. We're just going to put it in there to where you're capturing the max value for the money that you're already making.
Right, exactly. Right. That's a good way of putting it because a lot of people have that, like you said, that mentality on the sales, but then on the back end, it's all just going right out the door and they don't have that next level where it's like, okay, this is what we can actually do to make sure our business has a great structure. So that way, that was a great way of putting it because it is the next level accounting, making sure that not only you know those numbers, but you can turn that into something that's actionable to make sure you can drive revenue or decrease the expenses. And then at the same time, knowing that every single dollar that comes in, you're assigning it somewhere. So that way in the future, and then for your current expenses, you know that you're going to be a healthy business.
Yeah, you know how to grow and you know how to shrink. It's not just, oh, we don't have enough money come in, let's fire everyone.
Right.
Well, that's not smart.
Yeah, it's not a good way of doing it. Normally you don't grow after that.
Right. Brian and I know well about that one.
It's funny because, it's a lot of people, think like higher revenue makes for higher income. And like you mentioned, the two companies you're working with, the one that did less deals is making more money. And a lot of times we just don't really realize that is that just because you're big doesn't mean that you have to necessarily, do the most deals. It's mostly, what are you actually profiting off of these and getting more of those versus just doing more volume and then adding more staff and then just having a huge amount of overhead, even though you're growing. And so I think, knowing your numbers and getting and having more of intelligent conversations with those numbers, I think is a huge thing that everybody should know and really spend the time to do it. It's not a fun, sexy thing, but it's such a necessary thing for a profitable business, for years to come. That's what really people want. They don't necessarily want the cool part of it. They want something that's going to stay around.
Right, exactly. I love this saying, revenue is vanity, profit is sanity. I heard that a while ago, and that's so true. A lot of people want the big thing that's like, it could be that, like you said, the marketing and sales, that's fun to talk about. But a lot of people, when you say finances or accounting, it's like they just shut down. That's why that's why with this book, I'm trying to say, hey, you really are building a recession-proof business. You are doing something that's going to make sure that marketing and sales doesn't go to waste. You know, so it's like, yeah, it's so true. So,
and they can go to simplecfosolutions.com. That's simplecfosolutions.com. And then the book is on there. The link is like recession-proof-business. But if you just go to simplecfosolutions.com, you'll get right to it. Correct?
Correct. Yeah. If you go there, you'll see it. One of the tabs at the top, it says recession-proof business, and that's where you go for the book.
Awesome.
Yeah, sounds good. And now John is here, and you've been like so quiet, John. So I'm going to ask a question of you. So because, you know, David's like, yeah, because founders can be that way. We're just like great and whatever. What are the things that you deal with as COO of a company that's already set? Like, what do you feel is the number one area? Is it the same of David, or do you have a different set of things that you think people need to do first to become profitable?
Well, basically, what I do for Simple CFO Solutions, it's basically two things. First is I'm David's COO. I integrate things, making sure that David's ideas are put to work. And the second thing is making sure that our clients are happy. So that includes like making them feel that we're thinking about them every day, and making sure they are updated with what's happening. So that's basically what I do.
Okay, that sounds really cool.
Excellent.
And so you just have a lot of touch points with the clients with that.
Right.
Do you feel like it's just so they know, because when you talk about people's numbers, they get a little scared. Why do you think it is when you talk to the clients, since you're the one talking to the clients all the time, what do you think is their number one fear about letting you guys help them institute these systems? You would think it's a no-brainer and they would just be totally ready to do it, but there is fear there. What do you think the fear stems from, and how do you overcome it?
Well, based on my experience with our current clients right now, they're basically don't like diving into the numbers. So I think it's not fear, but they just don't like it, I think. So yeah, that's what I think.
Yeah, I would definitely second that. A lot of people just don't like that side of the business, the entrepreneur. So it's like, we got to talk about the numbers. And I think it a little bit is they might be a little scared when they actually find out what their numbers are, what it actually is. So that's another reason why some people don't want to dive into it right away. They say, I'm going to actually see what my business is actually doing. Because numbers tell a story. They tell your story. They're telling that business's story up to that point. So, I mean, some people's stories are a horror story, and some people's butterflies and rainbows, So it's like, if some people don't want to say, okay, it's a horror story now, how can we make it, a bestseller? So how do we actually transform that? So a lot of people don't want to look at that sometimes on the face of it. But when they actually get down into it, that's when you can start building from there, because now you know your story. Now you know, because I've gone to a lot of these places, these masterminds, they're beating their chests, 300 deals, or we've done this much in revenue, we've done 10 million in revenue. But then if you really open up their books, first of all, they don't know what they're actually making. So they're just saying, okay, I know that number, but I don't know if I've actually made profit. Or if they've made profit, it's not that as much as they'd like, or they don't, they don't want to tell people that side of it. So that's another portion of it too. It's like, okay, maybe I can't go to these meetings anymore and beat my chest if I've got this guy telling me I'm only making, $10 at the end of the day. So
I couldn't tell you how many people I've known that have been on stage that have bring in lots of money, only know that it just went out the back door instantly. So it definitely is something you want to keep an eye on. But, a lot of these entrepreneurs, though, that are bringing revenue, I don't think it's all that hard to really turn it around. I mean, if you're bringing in money, you just got to kind of keep tight holds of where it's going out the back door is really what it is. So even though it may look like a nightmare, I think that it can turn into a good thing because you're bringing in money, so that's, at least it shows that your company can, sell things and bring in funds, and that there is viability there. You just got to probably restructure how it is.
Yeah, exactly. Because Sorry, go ahead.
No, that's good. I was going to say there is one thing I want to get to before we end to talk about it. And you have where you talk about being a property manager at 1%. And I know this is just jumping to another thing, but normally it's 10%. And so I wanted to kind of hit on that, on what you were talking about. Is that a numbers tweak, or do you actually know how to do the property management at 1%? Like, how is that? I'm very curious about that.
That's an internal, like if you're managing your own properties. So I want to rip away anywhere this could be misconstrued. We're talking about managing your own properties if you hire your own in-house property manager, which I've actually seen done successfully twice. Once with about 100 properties where we were managing in-house with one virtual assistant that was basically coordinating all the property management there, and from signing the leases to letting people in the properties with a system like Rently, that's like an automatic showing system, and got different things like that. So we just said, hey, is there any portion of this process where we have to physically be in front of them? And we came to the conclusion, no. So we hired virtual assistants to help us do that. And we had a great system. We already had a great system in place, and then basically plugged them into that system. And then we had daily calls and making sure that they knew exactly what they needed to hit on every single time and every single day. And we were all on the same page. We'd get a daily report on that. So they were managing at 1%. Also, our collections rate was like 99, 100%, like for every quarter, I think in 2017 and 18. And then this year I'm working with a smaller company with 40 rentals doing the same thing. And they're at like 98% collections for the year with one virtual assistant. Okay,
so this fascinates me. So how do you deal with the actual, like, the physical property management side? You know, something's broken. We need somebody over here to fix this toilet. The sink's spraying water everywhere, like stuff like that. I get it from the other back end way, but how do you automate that process?
We fly the virtual assistant in and they take care of it. No. The virtual assistant actually coordinates with people that we have that are just contractors that were just on, that we knew and trusted. And so they would coordinate with them. They would make sure they were coordinating with the tenant. That was actually the number one thing we would hit on in our daily meeting was maintenance, because we wanted to keep the current tenants happy and paying customers. So we wanted to make sure that they were always taken care of first, because they're the ones that have already partnered with us to go into one of our properties. And so that was the first thing we would hit in the meetings is, hey, is this getting taken care of? Do we have someone on this? Or if it's like a couple-day project, are we going to be on time and finish this at the appropriate time? But it was just the virtual assistant coordinating with that contractor. So like your inspections and everything like that, you would just contract to get an inspector go out and go, hey, you know, there's a spot on the roof over here. We're going to need to think about patching that before it blows off, or, you know, blah, 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 blah. So you give them access to like our app or whatnot, and they could upload the pictures, and the virtual assistant would take it from there and say, okay, we need to get someone out for this, and send another contractor out there after an inspection. So yeah, that we handled inspections that same way too. So you did it all on a calendar. So it was more proactive rather than being reactive. That's what we would try and do for sure. Yeah. But then when stuff would just break or just come up, then we would, that would be top of the line for us, because that's an emergency to us, because it's an emergency to the tenant. Yeah, well, I found in property management, the more proactive you can be on getting inspections and getting maintenance done ahead of time, and even thinking ahead to innovations you can use. I was just talking to someone who took over a property, and they built some not so great properties around them. So this one set of rental unit apartment complex had been great. Then suddenly they started getting break-ins and you know, and they're like, what do we do? It's the apartment manager. It's this, you know, because they did have an on-site apartment manager, and they had to hire a consultant. And they said, well, what we're going to do is we're going to put, they actually looked at all the police reports and what had happened, and they made it smash and grab friendly. So it wasn't even the highest tech solutions. They did install a couple of cameras, but they put a lot of high profile fakes, so you didn't know what was fake or what was good. And then the landscaping,
They did landscaping that made it difficult for someone to easily get in and out of the property. So they had rules about the gating because of the community they were in. So it was like, we can't put up a bunch of gates. That's going to look terrible and it's going to require lots of maintenance or whatever. But what they did is creative landscaping, curbs, and even art pieces that were just unwieldy. It made it beautiful, but they're just odd paths you would walk around. Nothing was a straight shot or easy. And I thought that was interesting, that they, and guess what? Crime did go down and it was a better place. And so it worked. It worked on that one. So what other things? So if someone said, you know what, maybe we need to do this profit first system, right? And we need to get you guys to come in, but just, they would go to simplecfosolutions.com. And then do you guys have an intake process? Do you do discovery with them? How does that work?
Sure. We only work with 10 a quarter. So we're trying to focus on the best service, not the most service. So if you go to simplecfosolutions.com, there's apply in the top right corner. So people apply there, and then we look at that. So we do have an intake process. And then from there, we schedule a call. And then we see if you want to go on one of the plans or that we have with Simple CFO. So that's basically the whole intake process there. And then we, like I said, work with about 10 investors a quarter.
Okay.
That's great.
Cool. Brian, did you have any other questions for them?
No, this has been great. I think the numbers don't lie. I always say, everything can be drilled down to the numbers, and it's not the fun thing, but it is the necessary thing. And so, David and John, it's been great having you guys on. Been a wealth of knowledge, and you can get their book, which is get their book online and be able to actually hold up your book again, David, so you can see it. Yeah. And we'll have the links below, Less Stress, More Profit, and you'll be able to get that and be able to, find ways of keeping money and having a better business that's less stressful no matter what the economy is.
Yeah. Well, we appreciate being on here. So yeah. John and I.
Thank you for having us.
I had a great time, and I was glad that I finally got to hear from you, John. Okay, so everybody go to simplecfosolutions.com. That's simplecfosolutions.com, and you can get their book on how to have a recession-proof business by knowing your numbers, allocating the money as soon as it goes into where it's supposed to go, and they have the right percentages for you. Whether or not you're a real estate investor or you're just an entrepreneur in a completely different business, they'll be able to help you. I want to thank you guys again for being on the show, and Tammy, take it away.
Thank you both, Jennifer and Brian, for being our hosts again today. And David and John, it's been awesome talking with you both. I will have all of their links in the show notes for everybody to contact them. And if you would like to reach us to make comments or let us know about another great guest or how much you enjoy our show, please find us on social media at leafylegal.com. And we're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, Bigger Pockets if you're on there, and we will get right back to you. So thanks everyone again for listening, and have a wonderful day. We'll see you next time.
Attention real estate investors and entrepreneurs. Did you know that real estate investors are a primary target for lawsuits? According to the National Survey of the Court data, 25% of Americans risk being sued in their lifetime. However, if you are a real estate investor, you have a 95% chance of being sued in the next 20 years. Leafy Legal Services helps you protect your assets and strategically grow your business and wealth. Leafy Legal Services are experts at the Series LLC and Delaware Statutory Trust, two of the newest and most ideal legal structures for real estate investors. Leafy Legal Services have the most personalized and affordable solutions for setting up LLCs. Property owners are always at risk when it comes to their assets. Anonymity is so important. If you own just a rental house and you own your home, you have to protect yourself and your properties from any potential legal issues. Leafy Legal Services have the right solutions to make sure you are happy and feel secure. They offer cost-effective documentation, solution that suits their clients' needs. For a free consultation and ebook, visit leafylegalservices.com. They are waiting to hear from you. leafylegalservices.com.
Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
Don't wait. Take action now. leafylegalservices.com. Protect your assets, grow your business, and manage your wealth.